Because let's face it, kids are influenced. Like, I'm 36, I'm influenced. I'm a sucker for marketing. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Which women love.
They do. Wait, like now women love this?
Women love love stories.
Okay. Well, it sounds like women love arranged marriages.
No, they're not arranged.
Oh,
like, that's the whole thing, is that, like, because the parents had this very loving relationship, they all have massively high standards for the institution.
Okay.
Sex in the right context is good. And unless you teach your children the right context, they will have difficulty recognizing the wrong context. They don't even talk in a room together unless her brother's there. Now, she has an older brother who's definitely committing some sex acts against a tree with a hooker, which is a whole other thing.
Okay.
Sex worker, my bad. Committing some acts against a tree.
Welcome to Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Beard of Blevins, dad of 3, and I think most media marketed to children is pretty horrible.
And I'm Katie, I'm a mom of 5, and I think you can redeem most of the media that's marketed to children. And our goal with this show is to help you to be able to figure out what's in content that you need to shield your kids from, what you can share in with them as one of the most influential parts of their life, and also what you can shepherd them through that they're never going to be able to avoid.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about Bridgerton. But first I have to ask why. Why are we talking about Bridgerton? Is Bridgerton for kids? No. Next question.
Stay tuned to the end to see how we think that this is something you can work into your life with your kids. But yeah, Bridgerton is definitely not for kids. Now, John, for the sake of the audience, you were not going to watch Bridgerton ever. And why don't you tell everybody what you know about Bridgerton, just as a man in the world?
Okay, let me clarify that in order for the show, I'm willing to watch whatever I need to watch to have an educated, formed opinion to help parents out. Right. Every once in a while, there's a show that happens that you will watch all of, and you are perfectly knowledgeable to talk about it, and therefore I don't have to. I just didn't feel the need to watch 50 Shades of Grey, but for Christian women. You know, that's just what I've heard. You know what I mean? The people who won't watch like Game of Thrones are fine with Bridgerton because it's a little classier, it's if you will.
If you like your porn with just a little bit of class. Huh?
Oh my gosh, some maple syrup. Is that class?
I don't know that maple syrup is. That feels very like Vermont backwoods to me.
Yes, with some organic honey.
Yes. Yeah, this is normally John is perfectly willing to do almost anything that we're doing, but I actually flatly told him, John, you don't need to watch this because I know that it does have a massively pornographic feel to it. In fact, the most recent season, well, let me just give you a quick background on Bridgerton, because John didn't watch it, so I'm going to give it for you.
Wait, real quick. Distinctly different than what was the really, really famous British show that everyone loved and like priests
The Great British Bake Off?
No, priests were giving homilies about incorporating these characters. Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey is my favorite show.
The sophisticated Bridgerton, if you will.
No.
Okay, no. Okay.
Not even close. Not even the same era. But anyway, so this is one of Netflix's most popular shows of all time. They have 3 seasons, and season 3 is so far the most popular even of the 3. The first 4 episodes, so they broke season 3 up into first 4, and then they took like a 2-week break, and then they did the second 4. And those first 4 episodes, don't let me get this wrong, 45.1 million households streamed it in the opening weekend.
Wow.
Just 2 days, 45.1 million. And it's the story of an 1800s family, the Bridgertons. Now, the father is never present, but it's understood that the father and mother had an extremely loving, kind, caring relationship that resulted in 8 children who they name alphabetically. So A, B, C, D, E, H, all the way down to H, I think. Okay. And they're basically, older children are now of marriageable age, and they're starting to marry them off in this very 1890s, callers during the season, la 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 kind of way, which women love. Okay, so it's this great...
They do? Wait, like now women love this?
Women love love stories.
Okay. Well, it sounds like women love arranged marriages.
No, they're not arranged. That's the whole thing, is that like because the parents had this very loving relationship, they all have massively high standards for the institution. Okay. Like they're not going to be married off for money. They have money. They're fine. So this is not Jane Austen, though it's the same time period.
They're looking for love.
They're looking for actual, real love, at least in the first season with Daphne, the 4th child, oldest daughter who's being married off, right? All through the first, I'm going to go 6 episodes of Bridgerton season 1, you are looking at chaste, courtly love, where they don't even talk in a room together unless her brother's there. Now, she has an older brother who's definitely committing some sex acts against a tree with a hooker, which is a whole other thing. Okay. Sex worker, my bad. Committing some acts against a tree with a sex worker, using the correct terminology. So there's that. There's a little bit of it, but it's sort of like that, daytime drama kind of sex stuff that you might be able to overlook. But once Daphne gets married, it's just porn, like full on lady porn, softcore, like but there's booties, there's breasts, there's just no question about what's happening there.
Sure.
It's not at all closed door, which is the term that you'll hear on Instagram about romances. Is it a closed door romance? Which is where they just say, like, they go into a room, they close the door, you pan away, you know?
Yep.
They didn't do that here. So that said, there is no question, this is not for kids at all, not even a little bit. Does that jive with what you understood about the show?
Yeah, so far, I don't feel like I was a jerk for assuming that.
Yeah, no, you were right. But it doesn't come up until, I want to say, like episode 6 or 7. So you're all invested in this story before it goes, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I'm just going to finish. Was that a one-off? Like, what are we doing here? And it's not a heavy presence in it, but it's enough of it that, like, I once had somebody say, like, how much poop are you willing to eat in your brownie? Is the question.
0 poop for me.
Yeah, I have a no poop policy.
Yep. I found out recently that if you flush your toilet, there's like lots of like particles that pop up. So you close the lid always. I bought a new toothbrush immediately. And it wasn't even that close to the toilet. No. So yeah, 0 poop in the brownie.
Yeah, we're a non-poop in the brownie kind of people, which seems to be the case with like every female actress who's been a lead in a season of Bridgerton.
Oh, interesting. I was going to ask you, because in Game of Thrones, a bunch of the characters hated that they had to be naked so much.
Famously, Emilia Clarke.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated. She was the Queen of Dragons.
Yes, who actually made the show pretty famous with her naked scenes.
Yeah.
And she hated it.
Absolutely hated it.
And a lot of people were like, well, during that whole time, a lot of people were championing the fact that, oh, it's fine to have this kind of content. It's fine. We need to stop being such prudes. And then the actress who's like the one doing it is like, yeah, this is horrible.
Yeah. In this season 3, Nicola Collin, I'm going to pronounce her name, but I'm not sure if that's correct. I apologize. She's an Irish actress. She was famous for Derry Girls. She's actually is Lady Whistledown throughout the entire series. Her character takes center stage, and she specifically requested a cut of this film with no nudity and no sex scenes to be shown to her family because she was just not comfortable with it. And she's like, I'm not a prude. I'm willing to film it, but for my family, it's not okay. And that felt like a thing that needed to be discussed. I felt like, what do you got there?
I just think I don't know. I just have never found that in a movie or any setting to be necessary in order to prove the point that you're trying to prove. Mm-hmm. So again, not watching Bridgerton. Mm-hmm. I don't know the context, but like you can, if you're trying to be edgy, you can do that without showing something. If you're trying to show passion, mm-hmm. You can do that in different ways. You don't have to show everything. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense. It's weird. It's weird to have to make that request.
Yeah. We talked about this when we talked about Quiet on Set, about the portrayal by older actors of younger people. And some of the people on our Instagram were very feisty about it. They were like, oh, that person is 21 years old. It doesn't matter that they're 16. Like, do you think that 16-year-olds aren't having sex? Anyway.
I'm so glad I didn't read those comments.
OMG, who cares? Oh, women. I can't imagine how horrible your lives are. Get a hobby. Get a life. You're a white woman. You have no sex.
I'm a grown woman. These comments on Instagram do not bother me, but your kids shouldn't have to deal with this. That's where Bark comes in. Silence that noise. Bark can help you to cut off the apps, the scary language, and it'll let you know if any bullying like this is happening to your kid online. Get the Bark phone or the Bark app. You'll like it. Yeah, this is one of those situations. The actress that is playing a 19-year-old on this show, Nicola Collin, don't know how to say her name. I hate that. She's playing a 19-year-old. She's 37 years old. Like, she is a grown woman, but we're now trying to make people believe that what you're seeing on screen, this voluptuous woman, is a child, basically. I mean, 19 is technically an adult.
Right.
This doesn't quite fall to the level of words that we can't say without getting messed up on Instagram or YouTube and demonetized or whatever. But it is trying to convince people that it is normal to sexualize very, very young people. And she even said, like, she hid her age for years because she was afraid she wouldn't get cast in roles because Hollywood demands that people be young in order to be sexy, which is gah.
Yeah, that's wild.
We looked into this a little bit from the perspective of those comments that we got on Instagram about teen sex.
Yeah. And how inevitable
it is. Now, I saw from the CDC in 2021, the rate of teens who report that they have ever had sex, it went from 38% down to 30. So it dropped 8% in 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. And in that time period, the number of people who said that they were sexually active, meaning that they were continuously having sex, fell even further by 6 points to 24% in that time period. So I think that this weird criticism that teens are going to have sex and we may as well all watch is a very strange criticism.
Yeah, I think it's completely messed up. You know what's interesting? I don't know if we can find the stats on this, but I think that like while those stats are true, it's probably equally alarming the amount of online consumption that has also happening with these young people, how much porn they're watching, and not actually being with someone else. It is very weird. I had a huge conversation actually on Twitch. So I stream on Twitch every single day, and I was having a conversation about I'm not going to tell everyone how to parent, but I am going to do the best I can to parent my children to be responsible and to know that they're worth something, that their body means something, that they are their body, like you say all of the time, and that what they choose to do with that actually matters. And I'm going to teach them that in hopes that one day they will marry someone if that's what they are called to do and that's what they want to do, and that they will be with that person and have a family and do all of those things. And the people in the some of the people in my comments were like, well, like you're saying, it's just you good luck. Like they're going to do whatever they want. Sure, they are going to do whatever they want. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try to help them make the correct decision. Your kid's likely, 50% of people are going to go try drugs. Like, okay, I'm not going to tell my kid to go do drugs. Right. I'm not going to tell my and I actually explicitly brought up or specifically brought up my daughter. I was like, she's 4 years old. Like, I'm going to raise her to be respected and treated well. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter because by the time she's 16, I'm like, why are you telling my 4-year-old daughter that way? That's weird. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? We do this thing and it's very creepy and it's very weird and I don't like it. And just because there's a high chance that someone is going to make a decision one way or the other doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to help our children make a good decision.
Well, not only that, but like, what is this woundedness that they're talking out of where they're like, you can have no influence whatsoever on your kids? BS. I cared a lot what my parents thought.
Yeah, same.
I absolutely cared. And if you didn't care, I'm so sorry. Please come hang out. We love you and we care about you. But like, I refuse to cede that point that just because there's a possibility that they did it, or just because somebody in Instagram says that they're going to have sex as teenagers, that doesn't mean that I need to, tell them that that's okay. And that doesn't mean that I need to stop being a counselor to my kid who gives good counsel.
Yeah. And it certainly doesn't mean you should let them watch whatever they want with no consequence or regard for any decisions that they might make. Because let's face it, kids are influenced. Like, I'm 36, I'm influenced, right? Like, I'm a sucker for marketing. I'm going to be honest with you. I see a commercial and I'm like, I didn't know I needed that. There's this toothbrush thing back on the toothbrush. You can like put it like moves and then it covers it and sanitizes your toothbrush for you. Unbelievable. I didn't even know it existed. I want it. I don't care. I'll buy it. Okay. I'm a sucker for marketing. Young people even more so. And so we just have, it matters what our young people are consuming.
Right. And so bringing this back to Bridgerton, my 16-year-old daughter is extremely mature. We're at the point with her where we are counselors rather than, wardens. Like, we don't tell her yes or no for most things, but she still comes and asks. She's like, can I watch this? What's your opinion? Can I go to this? What's your opinion? And she takes our opinion to heart and she cares about it. So when I was watching Bridgerton for this episode, I had watched it previously, but I watched the new season for this episode. She came to me, she was like, could I watch it? I will fast forward through the gross parts. But everybody I know has seen it. Every high school age girl she knows has watched this, which is a whole question about how we're introducing young people into pornography. She wanted to watch it. And so I told her, like, I would recommend that you fast forward through the bad part, or through the sex parts. I don't say bad parts. I know I just stuttered it there, but I purposefully never use the word bad to describe sex to my kids, because I do think sex in the right context is good. And unless you teach your children the right context, they will have difficulty recognizing the wrong context. So anyway, she wanted to go and watch it, but I for our viewers, I would not watch this without there are programs out there that you can hook to your streaming services that will automatically pass over those things for you. You can set them so that, they'll fast forward through sexual innuendo, nudity, actual sex, any of those things. You can have it as mild or as restrictive as you'd like. And that would make Bridgerton completely usable. Yep. There's no swearing, there's no drugs, there's no drinking. All of the relationships, for the most part, are marital. So they're looking at happily married couple. The first season has this really incredible question about, the full gift of self that we'll talk about later. Just incredibly interesting show, ruined by the fact that we can't have nice things. Apparently we have to have somebody's butt in it or it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, ask yourself why. Like the people, like, because I think people are going to be watching this, listening to this, and being like, "Look at those prudes. This is crazy." It's like, no, I'm not actually offended by this. It does not offend me because I don't get offended by dumb things.
Yeah.
I don't care about Bridgerton. I've never thought of it until multiple friends brought it up, and we're doing it on the show. Otherwise, it's not. I don't lose sleep over the fact that there's too much nudity in this thing. I just don't care. I just don't think it's for kids. Kids shouldn't be watching if that's what it's about. But our culture in general is just so over sexualized. You look at the Olympic opening ceremony, commercials, reality TV shows. I mean, it sounds like you just described like an 1800s version of The Bachelor, like is what like Bridgerton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people love this stuff. They flock to it, and it's gross. It's weird. Maybe it's entertaining. I don't know. There's porn bots on Twitter. It's just kind of everywhere. And again, this isn't something that offends me because I'm happily married, and like that stuff doesn't affect me, and I'm super glad it doesn't. But it affects a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be putting it in these shows if they didn't think they needed it in order to make money. There's just too much of it coming our way, and I think a lot of people will argue that like it makes us free. Like, no, look, it's good because look at all this freedom. And I think in reality, we're just like, there's a lot of people that are actually enslaved by it.
Oh, 100%. That is such a good point. The fact that they had to make, like, because if you look at seasons 2 and 3 of Bridgerton, they dialed the sex down a lot, just a lot. And the fact that they felt like they needed that just to get people hooked. We don't need to be sheep, people. Like, you can like something without having to see nudity.
Yeah.
You can be interested in something that isn't sex-based. It's the corseting of society. We're going to talk later about Deadpool and how things get coarser and coarser as we go along. Are we made better by it? And I would argue that we're not.
I agree with you.
All right.
So ages, kids, I think you and I both said multiple times, not for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is something that you can look into this and share with your kids. I'm not saying don't ever see it. I really would encourage you to reach out, find one of those softwares that will allow you to watch the show, because it is sweet and cute. And it is influencing culture that we live in. Like the girls' prom dresses now, like with the puffy sleeves and the high waist. Those
are those back?
That's Bridgerton inspired
They're back.
stuff. Now they're doing it much shorter than they do it in Bridgerton, but like tons of the stuff that you're seeing in this neckline right here that I'm currently wearing is Bridgerton inspired. Like this is popular because of that.
Are bow ties coming back too?
They don't wear.
What about the feathered? What about the
ruffles?
The ruffles?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll get some of those.
Men's fashion doesn't change a lot,
Yeah.
but like that kind of thing. The idea of a promposal. Do you know what this is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So if
we were doing those even when I was in high school, weirdly enough.
Yeah, they're getting bigger and more interesting and more ask your dad kind of like very Bridgerton inspired. So there's stuff in there that you can share in that'll become part of your kids' life that I would encourage you to, if your kid wants to know and wants to be part of the culture, get that software so that you can watch it, because it really is just lift those scenes out and it's a perfectly fine show.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, wild.
Great perspective. My kids are 9, 8, and 4, so won't be watching it for a long time, if ever.
Yeah, my kids are...
I'm going to go with likely ever.
Yeah. 16, 14, 11, 10, and 3. The 16-year-old watched it, but she fast-forwarded through the scary scenes. Scary. For her, they're scary. And she came and talked to me about it afterwards. She was like, Mom, that was so completely unnecessary. That came out of nowhere. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry.
Do you know how I promposaled my senior year?
Please tell me.
I gave a fake rose to my girlfriend, and I said, I'll love you until the last... I gave her a bouquet of roses, and that one of them was fake.
Oh.
And I said, I'll love you until the last rose dies. Will you go to prom with me? But the fake one will never die. And then when she broke up with me, I asked if I could have it back so I could burn it.
That's hilarious and dramatic.
I'm an emo kid.
You are, oh my gosh, you and Luke Carey should go drinking.
Anyway,
you would have a great time. Anyway, hey, if people liked this episode, where could they find more content?
They need to make sure they go to isthisforkids.com, because wherever they listen to podcasts or consume their media, YouTube, we're all over there. We're checking all of our comments. They can like, subscribe, leave 5-star ratings. So many fun things happening with Is This for Kids.
There's just so much content out there for us to wade through as parents.
I'm Jonathan Beard of Blevins.
I'm Katie, MrsRuvi. Let us help you decide.
Is this for kids?